There are moments in public life when emotion slips through the cracks of performance and becomes impossible to hide. One such moment was when Kelly Clarkson appeared on her talk show, smiling, as she always did, until her voice suddenly faltered. It wasn't drama for attention or a planned emotional segment. It felt like something deeper, like years of pressure quietly breaking through in real time. Behind the warmth audiences had always associated with her was a woman carrying personal upheaval, shifting identity, and the weight of a life changing in ways the public could only partially see. The moment the mask slipped on live television. On the surface, Kelly Clarkson's talk show presence is defined by humor, empathy, and ease. But in one unexpected moment, her voice cracked while addressing her audience, revealing something unfiltered and human beneath the polished delivery. Viewers didn't see a celebrity losing control. They saw a person momentarily unable to hold everything together. It was subtle, not dramatic, but powerful in its honesty. The moment resonated because it didn't feel staged. It felt like emotional fatigue, finally surfacing after being contained for too long in a life constantly lived in the spotlight. A marriage that became a fully intertwined life. Before that public vulnerability, Kelly Clarkson's private life had already been undergoing deep structural change. Her marriage to Brandon Blackstock wasn't just a romantic relationship, it was also professional and logistical. He managed her career, handled business decisions, and shared in the architecture of her daily world. When a relationship is built across every layer of life like that, separation is not just emotional. It becomes practical, financial, and existential. What once felt like stability slowly transformed into something more complicated, where disentangling one life from another became unavoidable. The 2020 divorce and the collapse of certainty. When Clarkson filed for divorce in 2020, it marked more than the end of a marriage. It marked the end of a shared system of living. Legal disputes, custody arrangements, and financial negotiations became public topics, but those headlines only hinted at the emotional reality underneath. The relationship that had once felt permanent was now something she had to reconstruct her life without. The shock wasn't only about separation itself, but about the realization that what she believed was long-term certainty had quietly become instability long before the paperwork ever arrived. Emotional fallout and the question of identity. In the aftermath, Clarkson openly reflected on the emotional confusion that followed. She described not just heartbreak, but disorientation, like trying to navigate a life map that no longer made sense. When someone has been intertwined with another person across family, career, and identity, separation creates a void that isn't easily filled. It forces a person to ask where they end and where they begin. The challenge wasn't only moving on emotionally, but rebuilding a sense of self that had been shaped inside a shared existence for years. Another story of loss. Blake Shelton's divorce. While Clarkson was navigating her own unraveling, Blake Shelton had already lived through a similar public heartbreak years earlier. His divorce from Miranda Lambert in 2015 came as a shock to fans who had viewed them as a defining couple in country music. Their partnership had been both artistic and personal, making the separation feel even more disorienting to those watching from the outside. For Shelton, the aftermath included emotional withdrawal and a period of reflection that reshaped how he understood identity and love. Shared understanding through parallel pain. What connects these stories isn't romance but recognition. When Shelton later observed Clarkson's public emotional struggles during interviews and performances, it wasn't from a place of intervention, it was understanding. Both had experienced the quiet collapse of relationships that once defined them. That kind of shared experience doesn't require words. It creates an unspoken awareness. They were not mirroring each other's lives, but they were moving through similar emotional landscapes at different times, each learning what it means to rebuild after something foundational dissolves. Gwen Stefani and another layer of resilience. During Shelton's transition, another major life shift was unfolding for Gwen Stefani. After the end of her marriage to Gavin Rossdale, she entered a period marked by public performance and private recovery. Her divorce followed years of partnership and family life, making the separation emotionally complex and deeply personal. Like Shelton, she found herself continuing her professional responsibilities while internally processing loss, identity shifts, and the challenge of rebuilding emotional trust in the aftermath of long-term commitment. Two paths through the same emotional terrain. The contrast between Clarkson's journey and the Shelton-Stefani narrative highlights different ways people navigate heartbreak. In one path, two individuals found each other while processing similar wounds, creating a shared space for recovery. In the other, Clarkson's experience reflects a more solitary process, one without a parallel romantic storyline developing alongside it. Neither path is easier or harder in a simple sense, but they are different in structure. One involves mutual reflection, while the other demands internal reconstruction without external emotional reinforcement. Rebuilding without a blueprint. What stands out most in Clarkson's journey is not the breakdown itself, but the rebuilding that followed. She continued working, raising children, and appearing in public while simultaneously reconstructing her private life. That kind of transition doesn't happen in dramatic moments. It happens in ordinary days where choices slowly redefine direction. Over time, what emerges is not just recovery, but transformation. The version of self that remains is often stronger, not because pain disappears, but because it becomes integrated into a new understanding of identity and resilience. Outro, strength, after the story continues. The question of whether Clarkson's strongest years are behind or ahead misses something important. Strength isn't a single peak, but an evolving process. Her journey reflects what many people experience in quieter forms: love changing shape, identity being rebuilt, and life continuing in unexpected directions. Whether standing alone or alongside others, what ultimately defines these stories is not loss, but continuation. And sometimes the most powerful transformation is simply the decision to keep becoming someone new, even when nothing around you feels certain anymore.